Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Monday, the first day of spring. Yippee! Honestly, I want this to be over with and just get onto some warmer weather. The last couple of weeks have really taken a lot out of me, but no matter. We're going into spring, which means spring patterns, which are generally a challenge to forecast for a number of reasons. Local climatology always comes into play, but in particular in the spring around this area because of the cold ocean. And that oftentimes leads to situations where it'll be in the 70s in inland areas and only in the 40s right along the immediate coast. And of course, everybody hears forecasts, and they usually tend to be geared toward the big cities, and they don't make the necessary adjustments for their local climates. But we do have weather systems moving along in the flow, and I've pointed out three of them here as we start off the week, and we're going to move it along. Actually, that's backtracking to last week, the St. Patrick's Day. This was the system that came through on Sunday that wound up being a big dud. And one of the reasons why is that the upper low, rather than at least maintaining its strength or even strengthening as per some of the NAM model runs, wound up weakening as it moved on through. It did actually produce some prolonged snow yesterday over Cape Cod. But now that's done, and we've got a little bit of a ridge that's built here into the eastern states. But here comes the next system across southern Canada. That's going to sweep in a cold air mass for the middle of the week. And right behind that is another ridge that's going to build for the weekend. So we have a shot for everybody's going to be gearing for Saturday here in the east. Those temperatures will be in the 60s and maybe even into the 70s in some places. But how long that lasts, it may not last very long. One of the things that's happening, and I want you to notice this, right up in here, this upper air vortex is heading down to 50 north, 50 west. And at the same time, we actually have another one of these little blocking highs that's going to be developing. So what's going to transpire, and when I looked back at past model runs, each run of the GFS at least takes this upper low that's dropping through southeastern Canada and moves it further south. So it gets it down to 50 and 50. Now what happens is in this position, and this is next Sunday evening. Here you've got this blocking high that's to the north of that, or to the northeast of it, trying to build over Greenland. So as a result, these weather systems here, but particularly this one that's moving into the Ohio Valley, can't lift up to the northeast as long as that 50-50 low is there. That's going to be the big question mark, is whether that low is actually going to be there or not. Because that, if it is, it's going to force that system to track further east and south. At the same time, that 50-50 low does, by the way, bring in a connection of colder air into New England and into parts of the Northeast for late in the weekend and early next week. Now, we're getting deeper into March and going into April, so these cold air masses, unless they come down bodily, if they lodge up in that position, the cold air tends to be shallow in nature. So that's something that I just want to point out. All right, so with all that said, let's roll back and take a look at what this means specifically in terms of the surface. Oh, and meanwhile, just to not to leave the West out, we do have weather systems coming into the West, one after another. So that part of the pattern gets pretty active. You actually have two systems that come into Southern California. This one Wednesday night into early Thursday. You have this one that comes in on Saturday. The one that comes in Wednesday night, early Thursday, will be the catalyst for the system that moves in the east. And then there's one behind that for early next week. So it gets very busy in the west. Now, if you want to see the block in action, remember the whole analogy I've used a number of times about the fact that you take one of those old baby toy boxes with the gears in it, and they're all different sizes. You put the gears in and you turn the knob, and all the gears turn together, and the baby's totally happy. Well, same applies to meteorologists when they turn the gears, except for the fact that these gears are changing constantly in size and scope and in position. To see how they're all moving, and they all basically move around each other. So that low getting into that 50-50 position is very key, because if that does not happen, then this system is allowed to move to the northeast. If you watch it carefully on the loop here, here it is coming out of Texas Friday night. And you see how it tries to lift northeastward, but it's only going to be able to get so far because of this being in the way. And it's at this point here that it gets straddled out to the east, and it actually moves pretty much straight east. So this is why these blocking situations are important, and it's important to look at the whole broad scale of the weather pattern and not just what's right in front of you. Okay, so we'll take a look at what this means from a practical standpoint, day by day. Starting with tomorrow with a cold front coming through, there's actually a little wave that moves off the Carolinas. The NAM model wants to make a little snow out of this. I don't know if it'll be cold enough. The GFS says no. And there's our system that's coming into the west. You can see it here. And that pulls into the Rockies with some rain and snow, even into Colorado for a change. And actually, in this particular run, that low becomes rather significant on the Texas-Oklahoma panhandle and produces some decent snows here through the central and southern Rockies and the central and southern mountains of Colorado. Okay, so here's the end of the week and into the weekend. In the east, you got this high that comes down with cold air for Wednesday and Thursday, goes off the southeast mid-Atlantic coast. So you've got a westerly flow. There's a front. This is on late Friday night, early Saturday morning. So you've got a front there. Here's your low. And right there is a big high that's coming down with some cold air. But here in the east, the boundary of that cold, warm air is up in upstate New York at this point. So it's not anywhere close. And, of course, in the west, you've got, all this moisture continuing to pour in from off the Pacific. So as we move it along, that high, see how it builds down the way it is in eastern Canada? That's very shallow cold air. The cold air only is going to get so far south. The surface low is trying to go northeast but can't, so it starts to translate straight east and redevelops. So that introduces the possibility of a chilly rain here Sunday night into Monday. You see it does generate some snow and some sleet up to the north and northeast. The European run on Saturday went berserk as it kind of pushed all that cold air much further south and took away those waves much further south. So it had this humongous overrunning snowstorm from Pennsylvania and central New Jersey on northeast. And you know what? It was so hilarious in terms of the kind of amounts it put out. It actually put out amounts of 3 to 4 feet in northeastern Pennsylvania and northwest New Jersey. I mean, it was just laughable. But this is what models do sometimes: is they put out these maps that look like some sort of alien reality. But anyway, that low goes out. You can see the system back through here. Another one that comes out of the Colorado Rockies. That one's going to want to try to run northeast too, but there's a high that the model has up in southeastern Canada, so that might force it to go further south. Well, the bottom line is that the overall pattern, when you look at this, this is the GFS. We're now out to the 10th day, which is March 30th. When you look at this, this is a typical late winter, early spring pattern. And from this point on, it's not that major storms can't happen, but it's not that major storms can't happen. They certainly can, but they're a little harder to come by in terms of the dynamics. And also, they start to have the calendars just working against you. So the odds of a snowstorm or even an accumulating snow start to go down precipitously over the next 20 or 30 days. So if you're a snow lover and a winter weather lover, you're going to have a perfect setup. So you get the idea here with what the GFS has done. Why don't we just real quick look at the Canadian model, and we'll see what that's picked up. Do we have the new one? Yep, we do. So we'll go back and see what that does. So it's pretty much on course. There's that cold high, this first cold high that comes in for the end of the week. Then we have the warm air for Saturday. There's our front for Saturday night into Sunday, which it just kind of pushes way down. But again, this is shallow cold air. And it also, for whatever reason, and the Canadian loves to do this, it spins up a low in the tropics and takes it into the north of Puerto Rico and over into the Bahamas. Good luck with that. So I know there's somebody out there that's going to see that and make something of it. This is April, okay? So leave it be for the tropics. We've got another 2 months plus to get that part of the equation into action. So this is another, on the Canadian with the front coming through. It comes through a little differently because it has a much weaker wave that's coming out from the west and just kind of leaves it there and then brings part of it up on Monday with some rain. So we'll deal with that. And then looks like maybe some severe weather, if this is right, for later next week for parts of East Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas. And there's a system coming into California, and you can see it there. Let me just back this up. I want to just take one look. At the end of this week, with this low coming out, and you can see it's much further south than the GFS, it's likely that there'll probably be some severe weather here going on from northeast Texas into southern Missouri along about Friday into Saturday. Models even into Oklahoma too. So eastern Oklahoma, put that in the mix. And then some of that severe weather probably moves into Mississippi or even Alabama as we move through the weekend, depending on what's going on with this system from the north. Again, that's the Canadians' view of that. Let me just punch up the GFS real fast. So we're going to have to start paying more attention to severe weather, of course. And in fact, we do have at the end of the week with this low coming out, having that the GFS has a deeper low, it does also produce what looks like a severe weather event Friday in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Friday night into Missouri, and then pushing further east, although the threat looks like it lessens somewhat, perhaps as it moves through the Gulf states and into the Tennessee and Ohio Valley late over next weekend. All right, so we've got a few things to watch here. There's nothing that's pending. Oftentimes after major storms go by, weather pattern calms down for a bit, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. So we're going to just keep an eye on things and going forward. Latest web posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, and Angry Ben is at nycweathernow.com. And if you've stayed this long on my YouTube channel, thank you. And if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. Do please hit the subscribe button and subscribe for free. You'll get notifications when new videos come up, and you will never be without the latest weather information, even though I do tend to get much more meteorological. But it seems from the engagement that I see from my audience, you guys enjoy it very much, as do I. And I also try and stay engaged. I apologize if I'm playing catch up sometimes. It's just that the current weather situation, depending on what's going on, can overwhelm me. So I do try to get to everybody at least within the same day. Okay? All right. So everyone have a great Monday and a great first day of spring, and we'll see you tomorrow.